Millions of Americans get caught up in drug addiction and the cycle of crime, and those who get sucked in often get stuck there.
That's right. Prisons have a poor record of helping these people break free, but one ministry is seeing some remarkable success. Caitlin Burke went to Washington State to bring us this look at the Underground Coffee Project.
It's morning in the Skagit Valley small town of Burlington. And in the basement of this 100-year-old bank building, the Underground Coffee Project begins another day's work. These men come from a different kind of underground: gangs, prison, drug addiction.
Well, I was a heroin addict and a meth cook and a meth addict and a cocaine addict, and I used all of those on a daily basis. And so for 17 years, I was in agreement with evil.
At Underground Coffee, it's about more than just roasting the coffee beans. There's a profound message for the men in how the beans get from this to this.
These cold, hard, ugly beans come into the roaster. The heat changes them and changes their character, changes their appearance, changes their aroma and their flavor.
And that's exactly what happened with Zach. In time, the fire of the Holy Spirit cracked his shell, transforming this once violent, angry man into a humble servant of God.
What is your purpose in life now?
To share good news with people who are suffering and to suffer well with others. Like Jesus would go into people's suffering with them, and even when they're guilty and full of sin, that didn't separate him from them.
The Underground Coffee Project is part of Tierra Nueva, a ministry with a heart for people on the margins. And it all began with the beans. Honduras, 1981. Newlyweds Bob and Gracie Ekblad were deeply moved by the poverty there.
Most of the people there attributed their poverty to God's will. When we began discipling them in farming practices, and they began to have the same results we did, then suddenly God was sort of off the hook in a sense. And that opened the way for us to talk about God differently.
But it became clear the last thing those Honduran peasants wanted was a sermon.
In Spanish, a sermón is the same as a scolding. Most of the people that we work with assume that church is really a place where you go to be reminded of all the things you're not doing.
Bob explains in his book, Reading the Bible with the Damned, how he helped them discover for themselves the truth of God's unconditional love. In time, Tierra Nueva, or New Earth, was born. In 1994, Bob and Gracie moved back to Washington. As the county jail's new chaplain, Bob met Julio.
Tried to get help before, and it's like I've always got turned down because of my criminal background and because I was an active gang member. But Bob never looked at me like that. Tierra Nueva always accepted me with open arms. They told me Jesus loved me no matter what.
But Julio's shell was especially hard to crack, due in part to his gang ties and hardcore drug addiction. For 18 years, he was in and out of jail. Finally, he had nowhere else to turn. A bounty had been put on his head. Julio was on the run.
I was praying and I was asking God, if you could get me out of this one, I'll surrender to you. And the first thing that came into my mind was Pastor Robert and Tierra Nueva.
He immediately got on a bus and headed back to the Skagit Valley.
We baptized him 5 days after he came. We just watched him grow into an amazing sort of man of God. And so I guess I really believe in the importance of perseverance.
I didn't feel I was worthy of God's love from all the bad things that I had done in my past. Like, well, how could God want to use me? And I just kept remembering that Pastor Robert said, remember Paul? He was a crucifier of Christians, and Jesus used him to help people and to reach out to the people.
Tierra Nueva strips away the layers of religion, showing what Jesus' ministry was really like. In humility and unconditional love, they bear witness as modern-day Sauls are transformed into the image of Christ. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Skagit County, Washington.